Welcome to Poirot's Mysteries. I'm Nolan Drake. Dear listeners, settle in with a cup of tea or perhaps a glass of fine Croatian wine. For tonight, we embark on a tale of intrigue and deduction in the ancient shadows of history. Our story today is Murder in the Cellars of Diocletian's Palace, a Hercule Poirot mystery inspired by the masterful Agatha Christie. We'll journey to the 1920s, to the labyrinthine ruins of Diocletian's Palace in Split, Croatia, a custom location where Roman emperors once retired, now a playground for the elite and the enigmatic. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Antiquity. In the golden haze of July 1925, the Adriatic coast of Croatia gleamed like a jewel under the Mediterranean sun. The city of Split, nestled against the turquoise sea, was a tapestry of history woven from Roman stones and modern ambition. At its heart stood Diocletian's Palace, a sprawling fortress built by the Roman Emperor Diocletian as his retirement haven in the 3rd century. Its towering walls, once guarding imperial dreams, now embraced a labyrinth of temples, grand peristyles, and subterranean cellars, vaults of mystery that whispered of forgotten eras. The palace was no mere ruin. It was a living monument, its courtyards bustling with cafes, its chambers housing the elite who sought to bask in its ancient grandeur. It was to this extraordinary setting that Hercule Poirot, the renowned Belgian detective, found himself summoned. Poirot, with his egg-shaped head, meticulously waxed mustaches, and those legendary little gray cells, had intended a quiet summer in London, polishing his collection of patent leather shoes and savoring the symmetry of a well-ordered life. But a letter, penned in the elegant script of Sir Reginald Hawthorne, had disrupted his plans with an allure too tempting to resist. Sir Reginald, a British archaeologist of 58, was a man whose bushy beard and twinkling eyes belied a mind sharpened by years of unearthing the past. He had recently secured rare permission to Adieu, he murmured. This palace, it is a place of order and chaos, of history and hidden truths. Hercule Poirot shall find what lies beneath. Close, Sir Reginald greeted him at the palace gates, his hearty laugh echoing off the limestone walls. Poirot, old friend, welcome to Split. The archaeologist led him through the Porta Aurea, the Golden Gate, into the heart of the palace. The structure was a marvel, a fortified rectangle encompassing the Temple of Jupiter, its columns soaring. The peristyle, an open courtyard where locals sipped coffee, and below the cellars, dark damp vaults that had supported the emperor's quarters above. These cellars, Sir Reginald explained, were partially excavated, their passages winding like the thoughts of a secretive mind. The excavation party was housed in a converted wing of the palace, a series of suites overlooking the sea, their balconies draped with bougainvillea. Sir Reginald had spared no expense, transforming the ancient rooms into modern comforts with plush armchairs, mahogany desks, and electric lamps that cast a warm glow against the stone walls. Poirot's suite was a study in elegance, its windows framing the glittering Adriatic, and he nodded approvingly at the symmetry of the furnishings. Order, he said to himself, is the foundation of all things. That evening, the group gathered for dinner in the peristyle, an open courtyard where marble columns framed a sky ablaze with stars. A long table was set with fine linen, silver cutlery glinting in the candlelight, and platters of Dalmatian delicacies, grilled fish drizzled with olive oil, prosciutto from the hills, and glasses of ruby-red Plavatsmali wine. Poirot, resplendent in a tailored suit, took his place, his keen eyes observing the assembled company. Each, he sensed, a piece in a puzzle yet to be revealed. Sir Reginald introduced the guests with a flourish. First was Lady Evelyn Montague, a widow in her mid-40s, her dark hair swept into an elegant chignon, her neck adorned with pearls that caught the candlelight. The widow of a shipping magnate, she carried an air of refined melancholy, though her sharp eyes but mustaches twitched. Krasnov's knowledge could be a key, or a weapon. Miss Clara Beaumont, a spirited American of 25, brought a burst of modernity to the table. Her bobbed hair and bright eyes sparkled with ambition, and she clutched a leather notebook filled with sketches and notes. "Mr. Poirot," she said, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "Archaeology is like detective work, isn't it? Piecing together clues from the dust." As Sir Reginald's assistant, she was eager to prove herself, but Poirot sensed her ambition might outstrip her loyalty. Count Lorenzo de Rossi, an Italian nobleman in his 30s, matched Poirot's sartorial elegance with a silk cravat and a charming smile. His family, he claimed, had once traded with Roman emperors, and he was funding the dig to reclaim a legacy, or settle debts, if rumors were true. "To buried fortunes," he toasted, raising his glass. But his eyes darted nervously. Poirot noted the charm as a mask, perhaps concealing desperation. Lastly, Harold Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's nephew, a lanky man of 30 with a sullen demeanor, served the wine with practiced efficiency. His shifty eyes and tight-lipped smile suggested resentment. As the expedition's logistician, he toiled in his uncle's shadow, with little to inherit unless the dig failed. "This is my chance to prove myself," he muttered to Poirot, but the detective sensed a deeper grievance. As the meal progressed, conversation turned to the excavation. Sir Reginald, his face alight with passion, described the cellar's history. Vast chambers used for wine, grain, and imperial secrets, some sealed since Diocletian's time. "Tomorrow," he announced, "we enter Chamber 7, a vault untouched for centuries. I've had the passage cleared, and we'll break the ancient lock at noon. Who knows what wonders or dangers await?" The guests murmured excitedly, but Poirot observed undercurrents. Lady Evelyn's calculating glance, Krasnov's guarded silence, Clara's eager scribbling, de Rossi's forced laughter, Harold's clenched jaw. The air was thick with Palace. The Adriatic sparkled beyond, its waves whispering secrets to the ancient stones. Yet within the palace, a subtle tension hung in the air, like the faint mist that clung to the harbor at dawn. Hercule Poirot, his patent leather shoes gleaming despite the dust of travel, sipped a tisane in his suite, his little gray cells already stirring. The previous night's dinner in the peristyle had introduced him to Sir Reginald Hawthorne's excavation party. Lady Evelyn Montague, the calculating widow, Dr. Victor Krasnov, the brooding Russian émigré, Miss Clara Beaumont, the ambitious American assistant, Count Lorenzo de Rossi, the charming but indebted Italian, and Harold Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's resentful nephew. Each, Poirot sensed, carried motives as intricate as the palace's mosaics. Today was the day of the great unveiling, the opening of Chamber 7, a sealed vault in the palace's subterranean cellars, untouched since the days of Emperor Diocletian. Sir Reginald, the expedition's leader, had spoken of it with fervor, a chamber rumored to hold relics of Roman glory, perhaps even treasures of gold and marble. Poirot, though no archaeologist, was intrigued by the puzzle of history and the undercurrents among the group. "Where there is treasure," he murmured to himself, adjusting his straw hat, "there is often trouble." After a breakfast of fresh croissants, figs, and strong coffee served in the palace's converted wing, the group assembled at the entrance to the cellars. The air was warm, scented with pine and salt, but a chill seemed to emanate from the stone archway leading below. Sir Reginald, his bushy beard quivering with excitement, held a lantern aloft. "These cellars," he explained, his voice echoing, "were the foundation of the emperor's private quarters above. Vast chambers for wine, grain, and some say secrets of the empire. Chamber 7 is our prize, sealed by a lock forged in Roman times. Today we break it open." The descent began, stone steps spiraling downward into the cool fist secured it. Sir Reginald produced a crowbar, his hands trembling with anticipation. "This is it, Chamber 7, he declared. With a grunt, he pried the lock open, the metal groaning as it gave way. The door creaked inward, revealing a cavernous room, its air stale and heavy. The group stepped inside, lanterns illuminating a scene frozen in time. Dusty amphorae stacked against walls, fragments of mosaic floors depicting dolphins and vines, and in the center, a stone pedestal bearing a golden statuette of Jupiter, its eyes of inlaid emerald glinting faintly in the torchlight. "Mon Dieu!" Poirot exclaimed softly, his mustaches twitching. "A treasure worthy of an emperor." The statuette, no taller than a man's forearm, was exquisitely crafted, its gold untarnished by the centuries. Sir Reginald's eyes shone. "This could rewrite history," he whispered. "A relic of Diocletian himself." The group spent hours in the chamber, cataloging artifacts. Clara measured and sketched, Krasnov inspected inscriptions, and Lady Evelyn appraised the statuette's value with a jeweler's loupe. Count de Rossi paced, his fingers twitching as if longing to pocket the treasure. Harold, tasked with hauling tools, muttered about the damp. Poirot observed, his sharp eyes noting every glance, every gesture. The chamber, he confirmed, was a perfect locked room. A single entrance, no windows, walls of solid stone 3 feet thick. No visible cracks or passages suggested another way in or out. As evening approached, Sir Reginald declared, "We must secure the chamber for the night. Harold, bolt the door from the outside once we're out. The statuette stays here until we arrange proper transport." Harold nodded, but Poirot noticed him linger, claiming he'd forgotten a chisel inside. "I'll lock it after, Uncle," he said, his voice tight. The group ascended, leaving Harold to bolt the door. Over dinner in the peristyle, another feast of seafood and Dalmatian wine, statuette of Jupiter was gone. "Impossible!" Count de Rossi cried, his voice cracking. "We all left together last night. The door was locked." Lady Evelyn gasped, clutching her pearls. Krasnov's face was unreadable, his eyes fixed on the grating. Clara, trembling, whispered, "How could anyone get in?" Harold, shaking, insisted, "I bolted it myself." Poirot knelt, examining the bolt. It was intact, the lock's mechanism stiff but functional. He tested the door. It held firm. The walls, tapped with a cane, rang solid, no hollows suggesting secret passages. The grating, too small for a person, allowed only a view of the grim scene. "A locked room murder," Poirot murmured, his gray cells already whirring. "The crime, it appears impossible, yet here lies the body." The local Croatian police were summoned, led by Inspector Kovac, a burly man with a thick mustache and limited English. "No one leaves the palace," he barked, posting guards at the gates. Poirot, granted authority due to his reputation, took charge of the initial inspection. The dagger, he noted, was ornate, its hilt engraved with Italian motifs, perhaps a clue, perhaps a distraction. The blood was fresh, suggesting death occurred in the night. The missing statuette pointed to a motive, but the locked door baffled all. As the group stood in the damp passage, accusations began. Lady Evelyn pointed at Harold. "You were the last to leave. You locked the door." Harold flushed. "I did my job. Someone must have broken in." Krasnov's silence drew Clara's ire. "You're always skulking about, Victor. Did you want that statuette for your smuggling?" De Rossi laughed nervously. "Let's not be hasty. Perhaps a thief from the town." Poirot raised a hand, silencing them. "Mes amis, panic solves nothing. The truth lies in the details, the lock, the dagger, the missing treasure. Hercule Poirot will uncover it all." His eyes swept the group, noting their fear, their secrets. The cellars seemed to close in, the air thick with suspicion. Chapter 3. The Shadows Gap. Evelyn Montague, pale beneath her powder, clutched a handkerchief embroidered with her initials. Dr. Victor Krasnov paced like a caged wolf, his dark eyes scanning the horizons. Miss Clara Beaumont, her usual vivacity dimmed, scribbled notes in her journal, perhaps to steady her nerves. Count Lorenzo de Rossi attempted levity with a cigarette, but his hand trembled. Harold Hawthorne, the nephew, sat apart, his face buried in his hands, though Poirot noted the occasional glance toward the cellar entrance. The local police, under Inspector Kovac, had sealed the palace gates, allowing no departures. Kovac, a stout Croatian with a mustache rivaling Poirot's own and a grasp of English honed from tourist encounters, deferred to the Belgian detective. "Monsieur Poirot," he said gruffly, tipping his cap, "you are famous. We cooperate. But quickly, the press will come." Poirot nodded graciously. "Inspector, it is the details that matter. Permit me to question, to examine. The little gray cells, they must work undisturbed." With Kovac's guards posted, Poirot began his investigation in the cellars, descending once more into the cool depths. The air was damper now, laced with the metallic tang of blood that lingered despite the body's removal. Sir Reginald's corpse had been carried out at dawn, wrapped in a sheet and taken to a makeshift morgue in the palace's old crypt. The doctor, a local physician named Dr. Petrovic, had performed a preliminary examination. Death by a single stab wound to the heart, inflicted between midnight and 3 a.m., the dagger entering cleanly, suggesting a strong, precise hand. No signs of struggle. Sir Reginald had been taken by surprise. Poirot knelt by the bloodstain on the mosaic floor of Chamber 7, his magnifying glass in hand. The door remained bolted, but now open for inspection. "The bolt," he noted aloud to Inspector Kovac, who trailed him, "is on the outside, heavy iron, no scratches from forcing. The lock, ancient but functional. And the grating. Were you last night? What did you see? Hear? Omit nothing, for in the smallest detail lies the key." He started with Lady Evelyn Montague, leading her to a private alcove overlooking the sea. She sat gracefully, but her fingers twisted the pearls at her neck. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice steady but edged with defensiveness. "This is appalling. Reginald was a dear friend, Though we had our disagreements, Poirot's eyes narrowed. Motive. Whispers from Sir Reginald's letters hinted he'd discovered her late husband's artifact collection included forgeries, threatening to expose her and ruin her social standing, perhaps even her finances. She needed the statuette to sell discreetly, bolstering her wealth. And last night, Poirot prompted gently. I retired after dinner, around 10 p.m., read in my suite until midnight, a novel by Mrs. Christie, ironically, then slept. No one can confirm, alas. I dismiss my maid early. Her alibi was solitary, weak. Poirot noted a faint scratch on her hand. Thorn from bougainvillea, or struggle. In the cellar dust he'd found a pearl button, similar to those on her shawl. Red herring or clue. Next, Dr. Viktor Krasnov, interviewed in the shadow of the Temple of Jupiter. The Russian lit a cigarette, inhaling deeply. Poirot, I am a scholar, not a killer. His motive was clear. Sir Reginald suspected him of planning to smuggle artifacts, including the statuette, to fund anti-Bolshevik activities in exile. Krasnov's past was shadowy. Fled St. Petersburg with crates of icons, some questionably acquired. My movements? Insomnia plagues me. I walked the palace halls until 2 a.m., thinking of Byzantine parallels to these Roman vaults. Heard nothing unusual. No cries, no footsteps. But Poirot recalled muddy footprints in the cellar passage, leading toward Krasnov's quarters, boots with a distinctive heel, and a scrap of paper in the chamber, a note in Cyrillic, accusing the thief returns. Nipping. The statuette could fetch a fortune on the black market, and the dagger, it was from his suite, stolen yesterday. I smoked on the balcony until late, he said, gesturing airily. Saw Harold lock the door around 9 p.m., then lights out. But cigar ash, fine Italian tobacco, was scattered near the cellar entrance, not from his balcony. A false clue, a glove with his monogram in the passage. Finally, Harold Hawthorne, questioned in the logistics room amid crates. The nephew was distraught, or feigned. Motive strongest, inheritance. With Sir Reginald dead, Harold gained the estate, but the dig's costs would bankrupt it unless artifacts sold. He resented his uncle's favoritism toward outsiders. I locked the door at 9:30 as instructed, he swore, eyes shifty. Went to bed, exhausted. Heard nothing. But his keyring was missing an hour yesterday, and bruises on his knuckles, from bolting or brawling. In his pocket, Poirot later glimpsed a map of the cellars, marked with hidden spots. As interviews concluded, Poirot retreated to reflect. Red herrings abounded. The pearl button, Lady Evelyn's, but loose from her shawl days ago. The Cyrillic note, Krasnov's, but a grocery list. Footprints, mismatched shoes. The group dined tensely that evening, accusations flying. Evelyn blaming Harold's greed, Krasnov accusing de Rossi's debts. Inspector Kovac reported, but Poirot waved him off. Poirot gathered physical clues. Dust patterns showing disturbance. A faint scent of Russian tobacco in the chamber, Krasnov. A thread of American silk, Clara's scarf. Thunder rumbled as night fell, shadows gathering like suspects' alibis, full of holes. The psychology, Poirot confided to Kovac. One lies, all conceal. But the impossible crime, it points to cunning, or an accomplice. A twist, Searching Sir Reginald's suite, Poirot found a will draft disinheriting Harold of pastries and fruit in the converted wing's dining room. Lady Evelyn Montague, her pearls glinting, avoided eye contact, her fingers shredding a napkin. Dr. Victor Krasnov, his face a mask of stoic calm, sipped black coffee, though his knuckles whitened on the cup. Miss Clara Beaumont, her notebook absent for once, stared out at the sea, her lips pressed thin. Count Lorenzo de Rossi, attempting his usual charm, offered weak jests that fell flat. Harold Hawthorne, the nephew, slumped in his chair, his eyes red. Grief or guilt? Poirot observed them all, noting the silences that spoke louder than words. The detective returned to Chamber 7, accompanied by Inspector Kovac, whose gruff demeanor softened in Poirot's presence. The cellar's air was heavy, the bloodstain on the mosaic floor now a dark shadow amid dolphins and vines. Poirot examined the room anew, his magnifying glass tracing every surface. The oak door, bolted from the outside, showed no signs of tampering. The iron grating, too small for entry, was secure. The stone walls, when tapped, echoed solidly. No secret passages yet. But a new clue emerged. A faint scratch on the pedestal where the statuette had rested, as if something heavy had been dragged across it. Curieux, Poirot murmured. A tool, perhaps, or a deliberate mark. He ventured deeper into the cellar passages, following a hunch. The labyrinthine vaults, used in Roman times for storage, twisted like a maze. In a side corridor, half hidden by a cracked amphora, Poirot found a narrow fissure leading to a sealed aqueduct, a Roman water channel, its entrance blocked by rubble but recently disturbed. Dust patterns showed footsteps, though smudged, and a single olive pit, fresh, lay nearby. Someone explored here, Poirot noted to Kovac. But the aqueduct is impassable. Another puzzle piece, or a distraction? Back in the peristyle, Poirot pursued a lead from the interviews. The dagger, with its Italian crest, pointed to Count Message. Krasnov's smuggling past loomed larger. Miss Clara's alibi drew scrutiny. Her journal, presented as proof of her late-night writing, had smudged entries, but Poirot noticed a torn page, its edge stained with ink matching a pen in her room. "Miss Beaumont," he said gently, "you wrote, but what did you hide?" She flushed, insisting, "Just notes. I was nervous." Her ambition to outshine Sir Reginald suggested she might have sought the statuette to claim fame. A false clue. Her compact mirror, found near the stairs, was proven to have been lost days earlier, dropped during an earlier tour. Harold Hawthorne's behavior grew erratic. Poirot caught him lingering near the cellar entrance, claiming to check tools. A search of his quarters revealed a cellar map with Chamber 7 circled, and a small vial of oil, perhaps to lubricate the bolt. "I was planning repairs," Harold stammered, but his bruised knuckles suggested otherwise. His inheritance motive was stark. Sir Reginald's will, found in Chapter 3, disinherited him, pushing him toward desperation. Tensions flared at lunch, served under a canvas awning in the courtyard. Lady Evelyn accused Harold outright. "You resented Reginald's control of the estate." Harold snapped back, "And you'd sell your soul for that statuette to cover your husband's frauds." Krasnov muttered about Western greed, drawing de Rossi's ire. "You're no saint, Victor. Your Bolshevik ghosts follow you." Clara, trying to mediate, only sparked more barbs. Poirot, sipping mineral water, let them argue, his eyes noting every gesture. The psychology, he told Kovac later. It reveals the cracks. One lies boldly, others conceal half-truths. A new lead emerged. A local worker, Marco, who assisted with the excavation, reported hearing a faint clanging in the cellars around 1 a.m. Metal on stone, near Chamber 7. Like someone working, Marco said, but he'd seen no one. Poirot returned to the chamber, finding a tiny metal shard near the pedestal, possibly from a tool, or the dagger must look deeper. Krasnov glared. Clara fidgeted. De Rossi laughed nervously. Harold paled. Lady Evelyn, regaining composure, suggested, "Perhaps a thief from Split, a local with access?" Poirot smiled enigmatically. "Possible, madam, but the truth lies closer." In Sir Reginald's journal found in his suite, Poirot read an entry. Chamber 7 holds more than gold. Danger in ambition. Cryptic, but it hinted at a broader motive. Was the statuette a lure? The murder the goal? Poirot's mind spun, arranging clues like tiles in a mosaic. The day ended with a storm brewing over the Adriatic, thunder echoing like the palace's secrets. Poirot, alone in his suite, sketched a timeline. Dinner ended at 10 p.m. Harold locked the door at 9:30. Death between midnight and 3 a.m. The clanging, the shard, the aqueduct, pieces of a puzzle but incomplete. The past whispers, Poirot murmured, but the present screams. Chapter 5. The False Trail. The third day of the investigation dawned heavy over Diocletian's palace, the Adriatic Sea veiled by a mist that clung to the ancient stones like suspicion. The peristyle, once vibrant with the chatter of locals, felt hushed, its columns looming like sentinels over a secret. Hercule Poirot, his impeccable suit dusted with the faintest trace of cellar grit, stood in his suite, gazing at the sea. His little gray cells buzzed with the puzzle of Chamber 7. Sir Reginald Hawthorne, stabbed in a locked vault, the door bolted from the outside, no entry possible. The golden statuette of Jupiter vanished. "The clues," Poirot murmured, polishing his cane's silver handle. "They whisper, but they also deceive. The truth hides behind a veil of cunning." The excavation party, confined by Inspector Kovac's guards, gathered for breakfast in the palace's dining room, their faces etched with strain. Lady Evelyn Montague, her pearls a stark contrast to her pallor, sipped passage, remained a puzzle. Poirot's magnifying glass traced the pedestal's scratch from Chapter 4, now revealing a faint residue, oil, matching the vial in Harold's room. "A tool was used here," Poirot said to Kovac. "Perhaps to pry something, or to mislead." A new complication arose. The dagger, identified as Count de Rossi's, had been stolen from his suite 2 days before the murder, not one as he claimed. Confronted, de Rossi flushed. "I misremembered. I noticed it missing after our first cellar tour." His debts, Poirot knew, made the statuette a tempting prize, but the discrepancy suggested someone framed him, or he lied to cover his tracks. A red herring surfaced, a bloodied glove, also de Rossi's, found in a cellar alcove. "Planted," he insisted, but Poirot noted its fit, too tight for the Count's hands. Poirot revisited the aqueduct from Chapter 4, its sealed entrance nagging at him. With Kovac's help, he cleared some rubble, revealing a narrow channel, too tight for a person, but a faint draft suggested it connected elsewhere. A clue. A broken Roman coin, its edge sharp, lay among the stones. Dropped in haste? Poirot wondered. The olive pit nearby now seemed deliberate, perhaps to mark the spot. But whose? Back in the peristyle, tensions erupted. Lady Evelyn, her composure cracking, accused Clara. "You're too eager, Miss Beaumont. Always sketching, always prying." Clara retorted, "And you're desperate to sell that statuette to save your reputation." Krasnov, silent until now, snapped, "Enough. This palace curses greed." Harold, provoked, shouted, "You're all vultures. Uncle trusted me." De Rossi, attempting to calm them, only fueled the fire. "Let's not accuse without proof. Unlike some, I've no blood on my hands." Poirot, sipping water, let the chaos unfold, noting alliances and animosities. A twist shook the investigation. Late that afternoon, a local worker, Marco, reported a second crime. Clara grows reckless. Her ambition blinds her. Must watch. Poirot confronted Clara, who admitted, "I pushed for more control of the dig, but I'd never heard him." Her torn journal page, from chapter 4, revealed a sketch of the statuette with a note, "Claim discovery." Her motive, fame, grew clearer, but a dropped hairpin near the aqueduct suggested she'd explored there, perhaps planting the olive pit. Harold's behavior drew scrutiny. Poirot caught him burning papers in his room, letters from creditors demanding payment. Personal matters, Harold claimed, but a singed fragment read, "If the dig fails, you're ruined." His inheritance motive tightened, yet a false clue muddied the waters. A chisel, blood-stained, found in his tool bag, matched no wounds. "Someone's framing me," Harold cried. And Poirot agreed, the chisel was too obvious. Lady Evelyn's alibi weakened. A gardener saw her near the cellar entrance at 11 p.m., not in her suite reading. "I took air," she insisted. But her scratched hand, now bandaged, hinted at more. Poirot found a thorn in the passage from Palace Bougainvillea. Coincidence or struggle? Her pearl button, dismissed in chapter 4, now seemed planted to deflect suspicion. A second twist stunned the group. The statuette, believed stolen, was glimpsed in a locked case in the palace's archive room, accessible only by Sir Reginald's key. Kovac, baffled, confirmed the case was untouched since yesterday. "How?" he demanded. Poirot's mind raced. Was the statuette never stolen, or returned to mislead? The key, missing from Sir Reginald's body, was now a critical clue. As night fell, a storm broke over Split, rain lashing the palace. Poirot in the peristyle gathered the suspects. "Mes amis," he said, his voice steady. "The trail grows false. A glove, a coin, a hairpin. Each points yet misleads. Someone plays a clever game." Reactions varied. Krasnov's jaw tightened, shattered glass under a fitful sun. The palace's ancient wall, steeped in Roman history, seemed to pulse with secrets, their shadows lengthening across the peristyle where Hercule Poirot stood, his egg-shaped head tilted, his waxed mustaches quivering with focus. The locked room murder of Sir Reginald Hawthorne, stabbed in the sealed Chamber 7, the golden statuette of Jupiter vanished, then mysteriously returned, had woven a web of clues and deceptions. Poirot's little gray cells, those tireless engines of deduction, were now alight with patterns emerging from the chaos. "The impossible crime," he murmured, gazing at the sea. It is not impossible. It is merely a matter of method, motive, and misdirection. The excavation party, confined by Inspector Kovac's vigilant guards, gathered for a tense breakfast in the palace's dining room. The air was thick with unease, the clink of cutlery sharp against the silence. Lady Evelyn Montague, her face pale beneath her powder, toyed with a croissant, her pearls catching the light like eyes watching. Dr. Victor Krasnov, his brooding intensity sharpened, stared into his coffee as if seeking answers in its depths. Miss Clara Beaumont, her notebook abandoned, fidgeted with a bracelet, her eyes darting nervously. Count Lorenzo de Rossi, his usual charm strained, lit a cigarette, its smoke curling like doubt. Harold Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's nephew, sat hunched, his hands clenched, his grief, or guilt, etched in his furrowed brow. Poirot, seated with a cup of hot chocolate, observed them all, his green eyes piercing the facades. Inspector Kovac, his mustache bristling with impatience, approached Poirot. "Monsieur, the town talks of ghosts and curses. We need progress." Poirot smiled enigmatically. "Inspector, the ghosts are human, and their motives clear. Today, we pierce the veil." Poirot returned to Chamber 7, the heart of the mystery. The cellar's damp air clung to his skin, the bloodstain on the mosaic floor a grim reminder of the crime. The bolted in Chapter 4. But the aqueduct led to a dead end, sealed by a stone slab. A false path, he noted, or a clever exit. Interrogations resumed in the peristyle, Poirot's questions sharper now. He confronted Count de Rossi about the dagger and glove. "Monsieur le Comte, your possessions accuse you, yet they fit poorly. Who stole them?" De Rossi, sweating, admitted, "I suspect Harold. He was in my suite, borrowing maps." His debts remained a motive, but the planted glove suggested a frame. Poirot's revelation. The glove's blood was animal, not human. A deliberate red herring to mislead. Lady Evelyn's scratched hand drew scrutiny. Shown the thorn, she faltered. "I brushed against bougainvillea that night walking the gardens." But Poirot found a second thorn in the cellar passage near the aqueduct. "Madam, you were there, not in the gardens." Her motive, covering her husband's forged artifacts, grew, but a false clue emerged. Her handkerchief, bloodied, was stained with ink, not blood, planted to confuse. Dr. Krasnov's Cyrillic note thought a red herring proved significant. Decoded, it read, "The eagle watches." A reference to the Roman eagle or a code for surveillance. Krasnov admitted, "I wrote it to warn Reginald of theft, not murder." His smuggling past suggested he knew the statuette's value. But his alibi held, confirmed by the maid, though her bias lingered. Miss Clara's torn journal page revealed more. A sketch of the pedestal with a hidden latch, suggesting she knew its secret. "I studied it for research," she protested. But her hairpin near the aqueduct hinted at exploration. Her ambition to claim the dig's glory was clear, yet a red herring. Her compact found earlier was proven hers from a prior visit, unrelated. Harold's burned papers were damning. Poirot recovered a fragment. "Sell the Jupiter to save us." Confronted, Harold admitted, "Creditors pressed me, but I didn't kill." Hidden in a boot. Harold paled. "I swear I didn't take it." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Then someone placed it, monsieur, to tighten the noose." The Latin note, cave felis, linked to the dagger's lion crest, suggesting a personal vendetta, not greed. Poirot reconstructed the timeline. Dinner ended at 10 p.m. Harold locked the door at 9:30. The bell trap rang at 2 a.m. Death between midnight and 3 a.m. The clanging Marco heard, the wire mark, the thread, all pointed to a planned act. The murderer, Poirot declared, knew the chamber's secrets, studied its mechanism. But why return the statuette? To confuse or to protect another? Suspects reacted. Krasnov's jaw clenched. Clara gasped. De Rossi laughed nervously. Lady Evelyn froze. Harold trembled. Poirot withheld the killer's identity, letting tension simmer. The truth is near, but one piece remains. That night, a new complication. A scream from Clara's room. Rushing in, Poirot found her unharmed, but a window shattered, a stone thrown with a note, "Leave the past buried." A warning to her, or Poirot? The stone matched the aqueduct's rubble, deepening the mystery. In his suite, Poirot reflected, sketching clues: the pedestal's latch, the aqueduct's thread, the key's placement. "The revelation is this," he told Kovac privately. The murder was not for the statuette, but for control. Of the dig, the estate, or a secret Sir Reginald held. The Latin note hinted at betrayal, perhaps tied to the will disinheriting Harold. As thunder rolled, Poirot sensed the net closing, but questions lingered. Who moved the key? Was the statuette a lure? The locked room's secret was cracked, but the killer's face remained shadowed. Chapter 7. Justice Served. The fifth day dawned over Diocletian's palace, the Adriatic Sea sparkling with a clarity that belied the darkness within the ancient walls. The peristyle, bathed in morning light, stood silent, its Roman columns. Harold Hawthorne, the nephew, slumped, his face pale with dread. Inspector Kovac, flanked by 2 guards, stood at the edge, his mustache twitching with anticipation. "Monsieur Poirot," he said, "the town demands justice." "Who is it?" Poirot, pacing slowly, his cane tapping rhythmically, began. "Mesdames et messieurs, the murder of Sir Reginald Hawthorne was a crime of cunning, designed to seem impossible. A locked room, a stolen treasure, a dagger in the heart. Yet, the little gray cells of Hercule Poirot have unraveled the truth. Let us reconstruct." He recounted the crime. Sir Reginald, killed between midnight and 3 a.m., found in chamber 7, door bolted from outside, statuette gone, then returned to the archive case. The clues: a scratched pedestal with a hidden latch, a silk thread in the aqueduct, a wire mark on the grating, a Latin note reading "Cave felis," a key in Harold's room. Red herrings abounded: Lady Evelyn's handkerchief, De Rossi's glove, Clara's hairpin, Krasnov's note, all planted to mislead. First, the method, Poirot declared. The pedestal's latch, oiled, opened a panel in the wall, hidden by moss. The aqueduct, briefly cleared, allowed a slim figure to crawl through. The murderer entered, stabbed Sir Reginald, took the statuette, and exited via the aqueduct. But the door, how was it bolted? A wire, threaded through the grating, pulled the bolt shut from inside, then retrieved. A trick of precision, learned from studying the chamber. Gasps rippled. Poirot raised a hand. The statuette's return was the key. Why steal, then replace it? To hide the true motive, not theft, but vengeance and control. He turned to the suspects, his eyes piercing. "Lady Evelyn Montague, your motive was clear. Sir Reginald threatened to expose your husband's forged artifacts, ruining you. Your scratched hand, the thorn, placed you near the aqueduct. But your handkerchief, inked," voice sharpened. "Monsieur Harold Hawthorne, you are the murderer." Harold gasped. "No!" But Poirot pressed on. "Your motive, inheritance. Sir Reginald's will disinherited you, leaving the estate to the museum unless the dig succeeded. You resented his control, his favor to others. You studied the chamber, learned the latch from Clara's sketches, oiled it with your vial. You entered via the aqueduct, killed your uncle with de Rossi's dagger, and bolted the door with a wire, a trick you practiced. The statuette you hid, then returned to the archive case to confuse, using Sir Reginald's key, which you kept, then planted in your own room to feign a frame." Poirot held up the key, found in Harold's boot. "The Latin note, Cave Felis, you wrote, knowing the dagger's lion crest, to point to de Rossi. The chisel, the burned papers, all distractions. The clanging Marco heard was you clearing the aqueduct, your bruises from moving rubble." Harold's face crumpled. I had no choice. The estate was mine, but he'd ruin it." He confessed, sobbing. He'd planned the murder for weeks, using Clara's sketches, stealing the dagger, rigging the bolt. The statuette was a ruse to mask his vendetta. Kovac's guards seized Harold, who slumped in defeat. The group, stunned, dispersed. Lady Evelyn to her suite, Krasnov to his studies, Clara to her notes, de Rossi to his cigars. Poirot, with Kovac, finalized details. The statuette returned to the museum. The dig secured. As evening fell, Poirot stood on his balcony, the sea now calm. "The human heart," he mused. "It seeks order, but breeds chaos. Yet justice, it is served." The palace, its secrets laid bare, seemed to sigh in relief. Chapter 8. Hidden Passages. The fifth day of the investigation cast a restless light over Diocletian's palace. The Adriatic Sea pearls a stark contrast to her pallor. Sipped tea with unsteady hands, her eyes darting as if expecting accusations. Dr. Viktor Krasnov, his brooding intensity sharpened, pushed his plate of olives and bread aside, muttering in Russian. Miss Clara Beaumont, her usual vivacity dulled, toyed with a bracelet, her gaze distant. Count Lorenzo de Rossi, his charm fraying, lit a cigarette, its smoke curling like doubt. Harold Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's nephew, sat hunched, his knuckles bruised, his expression a mix of fear and defiance. Poirot, sipping his hot chocolate, observed them all, his green eyes piercing the masks they wore. Inspector Kovac, his mustache bristling with impatience, approached Poirot. "Monsieur, the townsfolk whisper of Roman curses. The mayor pressures me. Have you a name?" Poirot smiled enigmatically. "Inspector, the palace itself is a clue. Today we uncover its hidden passages." Poirot descended to the cellars, Kovac trailing with a lantern. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of earth and blood. The mosaic floor of Chamber 7 still stained from Sir Reginald's death. The bolted door, unforced, and the small iron grating mocked logic. But Poirot's revelation of the pedestal's latch and the aqueduct's roll had cracked the locked room puzzle. Now, he sought deeper secrets. Examining the pedestal again, he pressed the groove from Chapter 6, hearing the faint click. This time he traced the wall behind it, finding a hairline crack invisible in dim light. With Kovac's help, he pushed, and a narrow panel slid open, revealing a stone passage, tight but passable for a slim figure. "Mon Dieu!" Poirot exclaimed. "A hidden way, Roman ingenuity." The passage, lined with ancient bricks, sloped downward, connecting to the aqueduct from Chapters 4 and 5. Dust patterns showed recent disturbance, footprints, smudged but narrow, and a faint scent of lavender. A woman brand found in the passage, but its ash was fresh, unlike the murder night. Lady Evelyn's alibi cracked further. A maid reported seeing her near the cellar stairs at 1 a.m., not 11 p.m. as she claimed. "I was restless," she insisted. But Poirot found a lavender sachet in her room, matching the passage's scent. Her motive, hiding her husband's forged artifacts, remained, but a false clue emerged. Her pearl button, dismissed earlier, was found again near the panel, deliberately placed. Dr. Krasnov's involvement deepened. A search of his quarters revealed a sketch of the aqueduct, annotated in Cyrillic. "Path to freedom." Research, he claimed. But his smuggling past suggested he sought the statuette for black market sale. A red herring, a Russian coin in the passage, too worn to be recent, planted to mislead. Miss Clara's ambition resurfaced. Her journal, examined again, contained a hidden note. Pedestal key to dig. Confronted, she admitted, "I suspected a mechanism, wanted credit for finding it." Her hairpin and silk thread in the aqueduct pointed to her presence. But a false clue, a smudged sketch of the statuette, was proven to be from days before the murder. Harold's desperation was stark. Poirot found a hidden ledger in his room, detailing debts tied to the dig's failure. "I needed the estate," he confessed, but denied murder. The oil vial linked to the pedestal, but a planted chisel, dismissed in Chapter 5, reappeared in his bag. Its blood now identified as paint. A clumsy frame. A twist shook the group. At noon, a local boy, fishing near the palace's seaward wall, found a satchel floating in the tide, containing a bloodied cloth and a key. Sir Reginald's archive key, thought hidden in Harold's room. "Impossible!" Harold cried. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Someone removed it post-murder, to confuse. The killer plays a dangerous game. Poirot explored the upper palace, tracing the passage's draft so for Krasnov or Harold. The wax seal, he deduced, was dropped deliberately to point to de Rossi. As night fell, a storm loomed, thunder echoing through the palace. Poirot gathered the suspects in the peristyle. The hidden passage explains the entry, the wire, the bolt. But the statuette's return, the key's journey, these suggest a second hand. Someone protects or betrays. Reactions varied. Krasnov's jaw tightened, Clara flinched, de Rossi laughed nervously, Lady Evelyn paled. Harold trembled. In his suite, Poirot sketched the clues, the passage, the gear, the lavender scent, the lion seal. The killer used the palace's secrets, he told Kovac, but left traces of their soul. The Latin note, cave filis, now seemed a warning from Sir Reginald, not the killer, pointing to a trusted betrayer. The chapter closed with a chilling discovery, a faint carving in the passage. A Roman cat, its eyes scratched out. A sign of vengeance, or a final red herring? Poirot's gray cells churned, justice near but not yet grasped. Chapter 9. Motives Unveiled. The sixth day of the investigation dawned over Diocletian's palace with a restless shimmer, the Adriatic Sea glinting like a mirror of secrets under a sky tinged with storm clouds. The palace, a Roman labyrinth woven into the life of Split, seemed to pulse with tension, its peristyle hushed, its cellars brooding with the weight of murder. Hercule Poirot, his suit impeccable despite the damp of the vaults, stood in the courtyard, his egg-shaped head tilted, his waxed mustaches quivering with focus. The locked-room murder of Sir Reginald Hawthorne, stabbed in the sealed Chamber 7, the golden statuette of Jupiter stolen then returned, had revealed its method. A hidden pedestal latch, a cleared aqueduct, a wire through the grating. Yet the killer's identity remained a shadow, and the palace's hidden passages, uncovered in Chapter 8, hinted at deeper betrayals. The motives, Poirot murmured, tapping his cane. Monsieur, the townsfolk speak of ghosts in the cellars. The mayor demands a culprit. Have you progress? Poirot smiled enigmatically. Inspector, the ghosts are motives, and today they speak. Poirot began with a return to the hidden passage from Chapter 8, accompanied by Kovac. The narrow stone corridor, accessed via the pedestal's latch, was damp and claustrophobic, its air heavy with the scent of earth. The lavender scent, linked to Lady Evelyn, lingered faintly, and Poirot found a new clue. A tiny pearl bead matching her necklace caught in a crack. Madame Montague was here, he told Kovac. But was it exploration or guilt? The passage's vent, leading to Sir Reginald's suite, revealed another find, a smudge of ink on the grate, matching Clara's journal. 2 women in the shadows, Poirot mused, or one framing another. Back in the peristyle, Poirot intensified his interrogations, summoning each suspect to a private alcove. He began with Lady Evelyn, whose motive, hiding her husband's forged artifacts, was stark. Madame, Poirot said, holding up the pearl bead, you ventured into the passage. Why? She paled, stammering. I explored after dinner, curious about the dig. I meant no harm. But her scratched hand, now healed, and the lavender sachet tied her to the scene. A red herring emerged, a letter in her room, supposedly from Sir Reginald, warning of her exposure, was proven a forgery, its ink too fresh. Someone wishes you accused, Poirot noted. But her presence in the passage deepened her motive. Dr. Krasnov's interrogation was tense. His smuggling past and the Cyrillic sketch of the aqueduct suggested he sought the statuette for profit. Poirot showed him the Russian coin from Chapter 8, now identified as a modern replica. A plant, Doctor? Krasnov's jaw tightened. I study artifacts, not steal them. I warned Reginald of theft, as my note said. But a new clue surfaced, a hidden letter in his luggage, in Russian, detailing a deal to sell Roman gold to a Viennese buyer. Research Chorus passage was damning, but he insisted. Stolen, like my dagger. Poirot revealed a new clue, a gambling receipt, hidden in De Rossi's suite, dated the murder night, suggesting an alibi in a Split tavern. I slipped out, he confessed, to settle a debt. But the tavern keeper, questioned by Kovac, recalled no such visit. The receipt, forged, was another red herring, Yet de Rossi's motive, selling the statuette to clear debts, remained. Harold Hawthorne's desperation was palpable. Poirot presented the satchel's cloth from Chapter 8, bloodied but now identified as animal blood, a distraction. "I didn't kill," Harold cried. But the ledger from Chapter 8 showed he'd borrowed against the estate, expecting Sir Reginald's death to free funds. A new clue, a map in his room, marked with the passage's vent, suggested he knew its route. His bruised knuckles, he claimed, were from moving crates, but Poirot found a splinter in the passage, matching crates in Harold's care. His motive, inheritance, tightened, yet the planted cloth suggested someone framed him. Confrontations erupted at lunch in the peristyle, under a canvas awning as rain threatened. Clara accused Krasnov. "Your letters prove you planned to steal." Krasnov snapped. "And your sketches show you meddled." De Rossi blamed Harold. "You hid the key to ruin us." Lady Evelyn, trembling, accused all. "You're all greedy. Reginald trusted no one." Harold shouted, "I'm no killer." Poirot, sipping mineral water, let the chaos unfold, noting alliances, Clara and de Rossi whispering, Lady Evelyn isolated. A twist shook the group. A local worker, Marco, reported finding a hidden trapdoor in a cellar alcove, leading to a lower vault. Poirot explored it, finding a dusty Roman coin, genuine, unlike Krasnov's replica, with a cat engraving, echoing the Cave Felis note. A sign, Poirot told Kovac, of the killer's intent or Sir Reginald's warning. The trapdoor, too narrow for escape, was a dead end. Another. Poirot sketched the clues: the pearl bead, the ink smudge, the cat coin, the forged receipt. The killer used the palace's heart, he told Kovac. But their motive is personal, a betrayal Sir Reginald foresaw. The net tightened, but the killer's shadow lingered. Chapter 10. The Midnight Confession. The seventh day of the investigation cast a pale, uneasy light over Diocletian's palace, the Adriatic Sea shimmering with a restless gleam under a sky heavy with impending rain. The palace, a Roman fortress woven into the heart of Split, seemed to hold its breath, its peristyle silent, its cellars pulsing with the weight of secrets. Hercule Poirot, his suit as impeccable as his logic, stood on his balcony gazing at the sea. His little gray cells were alight with the puzzle of Chamber 7. Sir Reginald Hawthorne, stabbed in a sealed vault. The golden statuette of Jupiter stolen, then returned. The door bolted from without. The hidden passage, the pedestal's latch, the wire trick through the grating, revealed in Chapter 6, had cracked the locked room mystery, but the killer's identity remained a shadow. The clues from Chapter 9, pearl beads, ink smudges, a carved cat, a forged receipt, pointed to betrayal, yet the truth eluded grasp. The heart, Poirot murmured, twirling his mustache. It confesses what the mind conceals. The excavation party, confined by Inspector Kovac's relentless guards, gathered for breakfast in the palace's dining room, their faces drawn with exhaustion and fear. Lady Evelyn Montague, her pearls glinting but her eyes hollow, clutched her teacup, her composure fraying like old silk. Dr. Victor Krasnov, his brooding intensity now a simmering anger, pushed his plate aside, muttering in Russian. Miss Clara Beaumont, her ambition dimmed, toyed with her bracelet, her gaze flickering nervously. Count Lorenzo de Rossi, his charm a fading mask, lit a cigarette, its smoke curling like doubt. Harold Hawthorne, Sir Reginald's nephew. Italian tobacco? Another plant, Poirot told Kovac. Or a careless slip. Returning to Chamber 7, Poirot re-examined the pedestal's latch. The brass gear from Chapter 8, lodged in its base, suggested a mechanism to move the statuette itself. Perhaps a trap Sir Reginald set. A new clue emerged, a tiny fragment of blue glass embedded in the mosaic floor near the bloodstain. From a vial, perhaps? Poirot said, linking it to Harold's oil vial, though its color differed. The glass, he noted, matched a broken lamp in Clara's room. Coincidence or intent, he wondered. Interrogations resumed in the peristyle, Poirot's questions cutting deeper. He confronted Lady Evelyn about the lavender scent and pearl bead. "Madame, you are in the passage, deny it not." She trembled, admitting, "I explored, fearing Reginald would expose my husband's fakes. But I didn't kill." Her motive, protecting her reputation, was strong. But a red herring surfaced. A forged diary entry, supposedly hers, accusing Krasnov, was written in ink matching Sir Reginald's pen, not hers. "Someone frames you," Poirot noted. But why? Dr. Krasnov's Russian letter from Chapter 9, detailing a deal for Roman gold, was questioned. A misunderstanding, he insisted, claiming it referred to research funding. But Poirot found a new clue. A hidden pocket in his coat, containing a map of the palace's lower vaults, marked with an X near the trapdoor from Chapter 9. "You plan to smuggle?" Poirot pressed. But Krasnov's alibi held, confirmed by a guard who saw him in his room at 2 a.m. A red herring. The Russian coin, proven a replica, was planted to mislead. Miss Clara's coded journal note, "Control the dig, claim the prize," drew scrutiny. Poirot showed her the blue glass. "Your lamp, mademoiselle? Broken the night of the murder." Clara flushed, admitting, "I dropped it, startled by a noise, perhaps the bell trap." Her ambition to lead the dig was clear. Confession came at midnight, under a moonlit peristyle, as thunder rumbled. Count de Rossi, pale and shaking, stood before the group. "I killed Sir Reginald," he declared. "I stole the dagger, used the passage, took the statuette to pay debts. I'm sorry." The group gasped. Lady Evelyn clutched her pearls. Clara sobbed. Krasnov glared. Harold froze. But Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Monsieur, your confession is false. The cufflink, the ash, planted. The dagger's theft predates your claim. You protect someone. Why?" De Rossi collapsed, admitting, I owed Clara a debt. She saved my family's honor once. I thought to shield her." Clara, stunned, denied guilt. "I never asked this." Poirot's revelation. De Rossi's confession was a bluff, designed to draw out the real killer's reaction. Harold's sudden pallor and Krasnov's clenched fist caught his eye. A twist followed. A local worker, Marco, reported a hidden niche in the trapdoor vault, containing a bloodied rag, not animal blood, but human, matching Sir Reginald's. "The killer cleaned their hands here," Poirot told Kovac, "but left it behind." The rag bore a faint lavender scent, pointing again to Lady Evelyn, or a deliberate plant. Dinner was a storm of accusations. Krasnov accused Clara. "Your sketches led to murder." Clara blamed Harold. "You hid the key." Lady Evelyn, trembling, whispered, This palace traps us all. Poirot, sipping wine, let the chaos unfold, noting de Rossi's glance at Clara, Harold's isolation. A new clue, a torn letter in Sir Reginald's suite reading, "The cat strikes at midnight," echoing the Latin note. Was it a warning, or the killer's taunt? Poirot gathered the suspects at midnight, rain pattering outside. Mes amis, a false confession reveals much. The rag, the letter, the glass. They point